Welcome to this pre-recorded post-release applicant webinar for the Nita and Lowey 21st Century Community Learning Center's Cycle 13 Year 1 application. My name is Sarah Daly. I serve as the 21st CCLC State Coordinator at the Texas Education Agency. Let's get started. Today's objective is to summarize some of the questions submitted by November 22nd. TEA has received a significant number of questions, so only some will be answered here. An FAQ document with responses to all submissions is posted on the TEA Grant Opportunities page. You may continue to submit questions to 21stcentury@tea.texas.gov until December 12th. The FAQ document will be updated and finalized on December 19th. Please note that questions will only be answered during this FAQ window and no questions will be answered individually unless those questions are related to eGrants access or eligibility for specific campuses. This ensures that all applicants receive the same information. Today's topics are eligibility, partnerships, priorities, operational requirements, participation requirements, budget and funding, and then we'll touch on the timeline and additional opportunities for support. Please note that it is recommended that applicants prepare to apply by first thoroughly reviewing the program guidelines. Not all topics in the guidelines will be addressed in this presentation. Therefore, careful review of the full guidelines is essential to determining if this grant is a fit for your entity and for submitting a high-quality application. To access the program guidelines and all associated documents, navigate to the TEA Grant Opportunities webpage and select 2026 to 2027 Nita and Lowey 21st Century Community Learning Centers, Cycle 13, Year 1 from the application dropdown. Let's take a moment to walk through the posted documents on the TEA Grant Opportunities page under Application Support and Information. First, you'll find the program guidelines. As previously mentioned, start there. If any errata are issued, they will be posted above the program guidelines. Next is the Cycle 13 Eligibility and Priority Campus lists. This is a list of campuses that are eligible for 21st CCLC and lists of campuses across the state that meet the federal priorities for targeted services. It also includes the state priority list for previous 21st CCLC performance. It is important to note that the federal priority list includes all campuses across the state that meet the priority, but some of these campuses are not eligible for Cycle 13 because they may be a pre-K only campus, they may currently be served by Cycle 12, or they may have been discontinued during Cycle 11 or Cycle 12. Therefore, applicants should start by looking at the eligibility tab and then move to the priority tab to see if those campuses qualify for additional points. Next is the Notice of Intent to Apply. This is an optional form due by December 12th. TEA uses the information submitted to plan for the number of peer reviewers needed to be recruited. It's not required, and there's no penalty for not submitting the form. There's also no penalty for submitting the form and then not applying. However, we appreciate applicants taking the time to submit this form so the agency can plan accordingly. After that, there are 3 FAQ documents. The first are questions submitted after the pre-release informational webinar in October. The second is the FAQ for questions submitted during the FAQ window. Please note that the document will be updated for the last time on December 19th. The third is an FAQ for PMP Equitable Services, which is a requirement for 21st CCLC. Following the FAQ are a number of general TEA grant information guidelines that are important to know about and review. And then there are 3 required attachments for all applicants. Detailed information about these attachments are in the program guidelines. Also on this page, you will find a sample eGrants application so that you can see the questions before you apply, understand the format. In addition, if you want to learn more about the impact and state supports for 21st CCLC Texas ACE, including the Texas ACE Roadmap for high quality out of school time, and if you want a walkthrough of the process for accessing eGrants, The pre-released informational webinar materials include those topics, and it is posted here as well. Now let's move on to our first topic, eligibility. The eligibility requirements are summarized on this slide. The full list of eligible entities as defined by federal statute is included in the program guidelines on page 8. The most frequent applicants in Texas for 21st CCLC are public school systems, regional educational service centers, and community-based organizations or nonprofits. It is important to note that applicants that are not school systems must serve specific qualifying campuses at public school systems, and they must do so in agreement with the school system. Eligible campuses are those that qualify for Title I school-wide programs and have an ECODIS rate of at least 40%. Note that there are some campuses that meet this requirement but are ineligible for other reasons, and that is also detailed in the program guidelines. And last, eligible students are pre-K through 12th graders that primarily attend these eligible campuses. Now, let's move on to a few questions submitted about eligibility. Can our organization apply as a standalone nonprofit? Yes, this is allowable. However, TEA recommends that nonprofits apply in formal partnership with school systems. This is due to the rigorous compliance requirements, quality standards, and data sharing required. Partnerships also increase the likelihood of that the centers will improve school day student outcomes in reading, math, attendance, school day engagement, and family engagement. It also increases the likelihood of sustainability. Nonprofits are eligible to apply without formal partnership, but they must be in communication with the school system they propose to serve and verify agreement. Failing to do so may lead to the application being disqualified. It is also recommended that Texas ACE programs take place on school campuses. Off-site locations must be approved by the school system that will be served, and they must be at least as accessible as the school campus. All right, next question. Page 9 of the program guidelines states if multiple applications are submitted for the same eligible campus or campuses, all such applications will be disqualified for peer review. What does this mean? If a school system applies and another eligible entity, such as a nonprofit, submits a separate application with the same campuses as the school system, the application from the entity that is not the school system will be disqualified. Note that this is updated language and an erratum will be issued clarifying this within the program guidelines. Applicants must conduct a needs assessment and engage with eligible campuses and local stakeholders as part of the application process. Submitting an application that includes campuses already submitted by the school system itself indicates that the entity did not consult and receive agreement from the school system that they are proposing to serve, and that would be the reason for disqualification. Next, our school system serves a campus that is Title I eligible, but not currently served as a Title I campus in our district. The campus is not on the posted eligibility list. Does it qualify? Yes, the campus qualifies if it has an ECODIS rate of at least 40% and is eligible to participate in Title I school-wide programs, even if it is not currently participating. An erratum with an updated list of all such campuses will be posted on or before December 19th. If an applicant has already identified that it has a campus that meets this definition, the applicant can email 21stcentury@tea.texas.gov before the list is published to confirm and document eligibility. In addition, if you need clarification on the eligibility or priority status of any particular campus, please reach out to the 21st inbox and we will be happy to look into it. Now let's move on to our next topic, priorities. There are 5 areas for which applicants can receive priority points on top of the peer-reviewed application score. They are listed on this slide and on page 50 of the program guidelines. All priority areas are optional, but they may increase the likelihood of receiving an award. Applicants may apply without meeting any of these priority areas. Campuses that qualify for priority points for targeted services or previous 21st CCLC performance are listed on the campus eligibility list that was provided. A list of campuses that qualify for the partnership or the 175-day plus instructional calendar requirements is not included. This information is to be determined by the applicant and must be supported by required attachments. For partnerships, the required attachment is a letter of support or letters of support, and for instructional days, it is board-approved calendars. Here are 2 questions submitted about the priorities. For State Priority 2, does the 21st CCLC or Texas A Center have to run for 175 days or just be on a campus with an 175-day plus instructional calendar? All centers are required to operate for at least 155 days after school. To receive this priority, the program must operate a center on a campus with a 175-day calendar, but the center itself does not need to operate for 175 days. It only needs to operate for 155 days after school. Next question. Can non-Cycle 11 grantees receive priority points for a current grantee's Cycle 11 campus that is listed under the State Priority 1 previous performance? Yes, it can. And the reason for that is inclusion on that list indicates that the campus has a high need for the program and has historically met all attendance and operational requirements. Applicants wishing to serve a campus that they are not currently serving as the grantee should coordinate with that current grantee to avoid sending multiple applications with the same proposed campuses, as that could lead to disqualification. Now let's move on to partnerships. Now let's talk about partnerships. Partnerships for the purpose of 21st CCLC consist of a formal agreement between one or more entity that qualifies for the 21st CCLC grant. To receive priority points, applicants must demonstrate that the partnership goes beyond a contractual relationship or a shared service arrangement, or SSA. In other words, contractual relationships and shared service arrangements might be partnerships, but they also may not be. For example, an activity vendor that is contracted to come in for a few days a week to provide a soccer club and that is all that they do would not be considered a partner. Similarly, an SSA that is formed solely to maximize the efficiency of program administration is not considered a partner. 21st CCLC partnerships must increase the scope and quality of the program in ways that would not be possible without the partner. This includes supporting sustainability efforts when the grant ends. For more information on partnerships, see page 30 of the program guidelines. Here are 2 questions received about partnerships. Our agency has been asked to partner with 2 school systems. Can we apply as fiscal agent for one and as part of a partnership with another? Yes, that is allowable. Each eligible entity can only submit one application as the grantee or as the fiscal agent responsible for reporting to TEA. But that does not preclude the entity for being part of a partnership in another application. Next question. We are a regional educational service center. Are the program deliverables the same with or without a partnering school system or a partnership with a school system? Yes, the deliverables are the same. Awarded applicants, regardless of entity type, are responsible for all deliverables. The purpose of the formal partnership is to increase capacity, quality, and sustainability beyond what would be possible without that partnership. Operational requirements. These are the minimum program schedules or operational requirements that must be met to remain in compliance. All Texas ACE 21st CCLC centers must operate after school for at least 155 days until 6 p.m. and for 5 days per week. There may be occasions when programs do not operate 5 days per week due to holidays, bad weather days, or other circumstances. Programs will remain in compliance as long as they reach 155 days by the end of the school year and the regular program schedule is for 5 days per week. Cycle 13 applicants also have the option of operating a 25-day summer program. If choosing to operate a summer program, it must run for at least 6 hours per day and at least 4 days per week. All Texas ACE centers are also required to offer at least one family engagement opportunity per month. If awarded, each program will develop a unique center operations schedule that meets these requirements. It is important to plan ahead to assure that your organization can meet the full requirements, as failing to do so may impact funding during continuation years. Also, mornings, weekends, non-school days, and intersession days are allowable, but do not count towards the operational requirements. Here are some questions received around the operational requirements. Can centers start August of 2026 even if the budget begins September 1, 2026? Yes, and this is encouraged if possible. Pre-award costs are allowed starting on August 1st and can be budgeted during the negotiation process. In addition, current grantees may use Cycle 11 Year 5 funds to operate in August if they are serving the same campuses or centers as they did in Cycle 11. Does August of 2027 count towards the 155 after-school days of operation in 26-27, since the grant year is from September 1st to August 30th of 2027? No. The purpose of the after-school days is to operate in accordance with the corresponding school year. So after-school days of operation held in August of 2027 will count towards year 2, or the 27-28 school year. Now we'll move on to our next topic, participation requirements. Texas ACE 21st CCLC programs work to foster positive academic achievement and boost other student outcomes through sustained program attendance. State evaluations consistently find that student outcomes improve with increased program participation. Students that meet the attendance targets in this table will count towards the targeted attendance goals you set as part of this application process. For after school, these are students that attend after school in fall and spring at the grade level specific minute requirements. Note that if an applicant proposes to offer activities on a school day in the morning, these minutes do count towards each individual participant's daily minute requirement. For example, if a high school student attends 45 minutes of tutoring in the morning and 45 minutes of journalism club that same afternoon, then that day counts towards the student's attendance goal. For HIT, these are students that attend high-impact tutoring activities as part of a well-rounded after-school schedule. They must attend them for at least 30 minutes for at least 30 days during the fall and spring. For summer, these are students that attend in the summer when school is not in session for at least 240 minutes and 15 days. Also, it is important to remember that all applicants must offer after-school programming. HIT and summer are optional additional program elements. Applicants also set a target for adult family members, and these participants count towards the targeted attendance goal after attending at least one family engagement event during the grant year. Through the needs assessment process conducted for the application, applicants will determine how many participants in each area, family engagement, after school, HIT, and summer, will meet the targeted attendance requirement. Note that the same student can count towards more than one area. For example, if a student attends for 60 days after school at the minute requirement count and 15 days in the summer at the required minute count, that student counts towards both the after school and the summer target. A table demonstrating this in more detail is located on page 36 of the program guidelines. Please only include the number of participants in the center per pupil allocation table that you anticipate will meet the targeted participation requirements by year 2, as these targets do impact your funding for continuation years. Now to a few questions related to the participation requirements. If a grantee achieves their targeted student participation numbers during the school year, fall and spring semesters, are those same students required to continue with the summer program? Not necessarily. Summer participation should be determined through your organization's needs assessment. Is it permissible for a new group of students who did not participate during the school year to enroll in the summer program to meet the 15-day requirement? Yes, it is permissible. Summer participation should be determined through your organization's needs assessment. We also want to add that because statewide evaluations have consistently shown a connection between consistent program participation and positive student outcomes, it is recommended that applicants develop strategies for retaining and recruiting students for as long as possible. This includes retaining the same participants over after school and summer, and even over multiple years of the cycle. Now let's move on to budget and funding. It is anticipated that at least 40 applications will be funded. Funding for Cycle 13 Year 1 and continuation funding in years 2 through 5 is contingent upon continued appropriations from the federal government and on grantee performance. Funding is based on per pupil targets that the applicant sets in each area. In addition, there are maximum awards based on areas of programming the applicant selects to offer. When completing the center per pupil allocation table and narrative questions on budgeting, do not go over the maximums for per pupil or the maximums for program area that are listed on this slide. TEA has received questions regarding submission of the program budget summary and support and its associated budget schedules in eGrants. The following is an excerpt from pages 2 and pages 22 of the program guidelines for this opportunity. I will summarize this excerpt. Applicants should not open the eGrants budget schedules. These schedules are only completed if the applicant is awarded. Applicants outline their proposed budget as part of the narrative questions and also through the center per pupil allocation table. Do be sure that the narrative question that you answer regarding the budget matches the amounts that you have entered into that center per pupil allocation attachment. Now to questions related to budget and funding. If an LEA is a 4-day-a-week district, can local funds pay for the 5th day until 3 p.m., and then can 21st Century Funding pay for the program from 3 to 6 p.m.? It is allowable to use other funding sources to maximize Texas ACE program quality and capacity. All Texas ACE programs must provide after-school programming 5 days per week from school dismissal until 6 p.m. 4-day districts are granted the flexibility to provide after-school programming on the 5th day when school is not in session, but that program must be held until 6 p.m. and meet all Texas ACE requirements for a well-rounded after-school program. The ideal fit for Texas ACE is an after-school program that occurs after the traditional school day 5 days per week. Applicants should note that priority points are given to host campuses that operate on a 175-day instructional calendar. We've now reached the last section, timeline and support. Please note that these are timeline highlights. Be sure to also review the timeline in the program guidelines and on the TEA Grant Opportunities page. First, TEA's Grant Administration team is offering several Technical Assistant Office Hour opportunities for applicants that need assistance accessing eGrants or have other technical questions about submitting their application. Instructions for accessing eGrants can also be found in the pre-release webinar and in the program guidelines. Next, a reminder that the last day to submit questions for the FAQ to the 21st CCLC inbox is December 12th. The FAQ currently published on the TEA Grants Opportunity page will be updated for the last and final time on December 19th. In addition, the optional Notice of Intent to Apply is due on the 12th. Applications are due in eGrants by February 17th at 11:55 p.m. TEA anticipates announcing the awards on or around July 1st. The grant year begins September 1st with pre-award costs allowed starting August 1st, and programming for students and families must start by October 5th. And finally, the Texas Partnership for Out of School Time, TextPost, is running an application readiness series. TextPost is the statewide after-school network, and it supports out-of-school time programs across the state. TEA is sharing this opportunity so all applicants are aware of all supports being offered. It is open to all eligible entities, including school systems, ESCs, and nonprofits. Please note that the sessions were not created and are not led or endorsed by TEA. Applicants can scan the QR code or follow the link in this slide if interested in this resource. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.